Welcome students. Today's class is in continuation of part 1 of the lesson The Portrait of a Lady. Let's quickly recapitulate the story read so far. We have read the description of Khushwant Singh's grandmother. Through his words, he has exposed her divinity that resided in her heart and made her look beautiful, even though she was not pretty in her physical appearance. Then he explains his intimate relationship when he was a child, but slowly and gradually they started distancing because of change of place and circumstances. Khushwant Singh's schooling in the city. They shared the room but hardly did talk to each other because Khushwant Singh was busy in his studies. Now, though the grandmother is upset by this distancing, she does not raise any loud disagreement. So let's read further. Please open to page number 5 of your book. We start with the first paragraph on this page 5. When I went up to university, I was given a room of my own. The common link of friendship was snapped. Now he was taking his higher education, so he was given a separate room. The common link of friendship, because earlier they shared the room, they could see each other. Though the daily interaction had diminished, yet they saw each other. But now this common link also was snapped. Snapped means suddenly broken. It was shattered because now they could not see each other at all. My grandmother accepted her seclusion with resignation. Seclusion means isolation. She was left lonely. With resignation, resignation means she submitted herself to the fact of his higher education. So she isolated herself, withdrew herself, and she diverted her attention. She rarely left her spinning wheel to talk to anyone. So she diverted her attention to the spinning wheel. From sunrise to sunset, she sat by her wheel spinning and reciting prayers. Only in the afternoon she relaxed for a while to feed the sparrows. While she sat in the veranda breaking the bread into little bits, hundreds of little birds collected round her, creating a veritable bedlam of chirpings. Veritable, continuous excited sounds made by those little birds. Bedlam means very noisy and chaotic, and chirpings are the twittering of the sparrows, the sound made by the sparrows. So in the afternoon she would busy herself by feeding the birds, and these little birds would create a confused, continuous sound of the twitterings. If you remember, when she was in the village, she used to feed the dogs, and here in the city, when she could not find the dogs, she fed the birds. Some came and perched on her legs and others on her shoulders, so they played with her. Some even sat on her head. She smiled but never shooed them away. She never shooed them away. She never chased them away, never made them fly away. It used to be the happiest half hour of the day for her. So she found company in the birds and felt happy. When I decided to go for further studies, I was sure my grandmother would be upset. I would be away for 5 years, and at her age one could never tell. Now he knew that he has to go for higher education for 5 years. And he would be away for 5 years, and at her age one could never tell. Perhaps he had this feeling that when he comes after 5 years, would he be able to see her, because she was already very old. Nobody could predict for how many years, more years she would live. But my grandmother could. So the grandmother was very poised, and she knew that she would be there. She would wait for the grandson to return. She was not even sentimental. So for the send-off, she did not show her sentimentality, in the sense she did not show any outpour of emotions. There was no outburst of emotions, just went with the flow. She came to leave me at the railway station but did not talk or show any emotion. Her lips moved in prayer, her mind was lost in prayer. So there, even at the railway station, it was not that she was not disturbed or sad, but she continued to be poised and unruffled. very balanced in her approach. And she continued with her routine of saying her prayers. Her fingers were busy telling the beads of a rosary. Silently, she kissed my forehead, and when I left, I cherished the moist imprint as perhaps the last sign of physical contact between us. So, before he had to board the train, she kissed him. And Khushwant Singh says, when I left, I cherished the moist imprint. Cherished means I treasured. Moist, that wet impression on his forehead, he carried it as a fond memory. That was the last physical contact before he left. But that was not so. After 5 years, I came back home and was met by her at the station. She did not look a day older. So even after 5 years, she looked the same. She still had no time for words, and while she clasped me in her arms, I could hear her reciting her prayers. So when he returned, she held him tight, she hugged him, but she continued with her routine of reciting her prayers. Even on the first day of my arrival, her happiest moments were with her sparrows, whom she fed longer and with frivolous rebukes. Frivolous means very light-hearted, just a casual check to the birds. Rebukes means scoldings. So now how did she share her feelings or her happiness on the return of her grandson? By feeding the birds a little longer and just expressing her happiness by chiding them. In the evening, a change came over her. She did not pray. So there was something different that day when he came. She collected the women of the neighborhood, got an old drum and started to sing. For several hours, she thumped the sagging skins of the dilapidated drum and sang the homecoming of warriors. So, how did she express her happiness? One was that she fed the sparrows for a longer time, chiding them here and there light-heartedly, and in the evening, there was a difference in her routine now. That evening, she did not pray. Instead, she invited all the women of the neighborhood and got an old drum, started to thump. Thump means to beat. Sagging refers to sagging means it was very hollow and loose. It was unshapely, the drum that she got to beat. Of the dilapidated drum, dilapidated again means worn out, old, broken, or you can say not fit to be beaten. And with that only she started singing the homecoming of the warriors. So that means she started singing the songs on the return of her grandson. Now, homecoming of warriors means when the warriors or the soldiers, they come home from the battlefield, the people show their happiness by singing and praising their courage. We have heard a lot of folk songs based on this. So she also started singing different folk songs. That was her way of expressing her happiness or outpour of her emotions. We had to persuade her to stop to avoid overstraining. That showed that she was overwhelmed, and the family members had to stop her because she was overstraining or exhausting herself. That was the first time since I had known her that she did not pray. So over all these years, this was the first time that she had avoided her prayers. The next morning, she was taken ill. It was a mild fever and the doctor told us that it would go. But my grandmother thought differently. So the next morning, because she had strained herself, she got a mild fever. Though the doctor had assured that nothing was wrong, but she was thinking it differently. And what was her thought? What was her perception? She had an intuition about her death. She told us that her end was near. So perhaps she had a sixth sense or a gut feeling that her end had come. She said that since only a few hours before the close of the last chapter of her life she had omitted to pray, she was not going to waste any more time talking to us. Now she realized that her end was near and she could not waste her time in all those worldly affairs, so she started praying instead of talking to the family members. We protested, but she ignored our protests. Protested, the family members objected because they wanted to speak to her, but she did not listen to them. She was adamant. She did not want to waste any time because it was her conviction about her prayers that made her strong all the time. She lay peacefully in bed, praying and telling her beads. Even before we could suspect, her lips stopped moving and the rosary fell from her lifeless fingers. A peaceful pallor spread on her face and we knew that she was dead. Pallor, a pale cloud of stillness could be seen on her face. She looked very quiet, very peaceful, and they all got to know that now she was no more. Perhaps this peace refers to the contentment that she received when she saw her grandson return. She died in peace. We lifted her off the bed and, as is customary, laid her on the ground and covered her with a red shroud. Customary as is a tradition. Shroud is the cloth in which the lifeless body is wrapped. After a few years of mourning, we left her alone to make arrangements for her funeral. Hours of mourning. Mourning means grieving, feeling sad. After grieving and sorrowing, they left for other arrangements. In the evening, we went to her room with a crude stretcher to take her to be cremated. Crude means, it's a rough wooden stretcher which was made. The sun was setting and had lit her room and veranda with a blaze of golden light. Blaze, at times in the evening when the sun is about to set, there is a strong and bright light. So that could be seen in her room. It made the room well lighted. We stopped halfway in the courtyard. All over the veranda and in her room, right up to where she lay, dead and stiff wrapped in the shroud, thousands of sparrows sat scattered on the floor. So what was there? Who had come to pay their respect? It was the little sparrows, and they were spread all around her body. There was no chirping. See how sensitive these birds were to the situation. We felt sorry for the birds and my mother fetched some bread for them. She broke it into little crumbs the way my grandmother used to and threw it to them. The sparrows took no notice of the bread. They did not eat the bread at all. So now they also were, they could perceive that the hand that fed them lay still and motionless, and they did not eat the bread. When we carried my grandmother's corpse off, they flew away quietly. Corpse is the dead body. So when the body was taken away, these birds, little sparrows, also flew away quietly. So they silently paid their tribute to the grandmother and expressed their grief by not eating the breadcrumbs. Next morning, the sweeper swept the breadcrumbs into the dustbin. See the beautiful relationship that the grandmother had with the birds. What a beautiful bond of love and affection they shared with the grandmother. That brings us to the end of the story. Now let's reflect on the broader theme of the story. We find an autobiographical element as Khushwant Singh describes his strong bond with his grandmother. Then the story revolves around the universality of family relationships and love that do change temporarily due to circumstances, but remain unaffected and unconditional. They remain strong. We have read in the story how the birds paid their tribute to the grandmother, but even Khushwant Singh has paid a tribute to his grandmother by reminiscing, by recalling the emotional bond they shared. Well, children, the story leaves with a question to the readers, rather to us, our grandparents and our relationship with them, and the growing isolation in the families because of the nuclear setups. So I want each one of you to reflect on this. Now let's move on to the questions. First is understanding the text. The first question reads, the three phases of the author's relationship with his grandmother before he left the country to study abroad. I'll be just discussing the value points with you. The three phases are the village, the city, and the university when he went abroad. So in the village, they were constant companion to each other, shared intimate relationship, there was mutual love and respect. In the city, they shared the room, though their relationship and the bond had weakened. They hardly saw each other. But when he went to the university, there was a yawning gap between them. Yawning means a wide gap between them. They became more distant, far away from each other. The common link of seeing each other was snapped. There was no communication. Both adopted their own distant world. How the grandmother busied herself with her spinning wheel and the birds, and Khushwant Singh in his studies. So we move on to the second question. Second question was given to you as an assignment, and I hope you all have attempted. Question number 3. 3 ways in which the author's grandmother spent her days after he grew up. Well, what was her approach when he grew up? She adopted a very stoic approach. Stoic means she became very tolerant. She exercised a lot of self-control. Stoic, the literal meaning of stoic means to accept pain or hardship calmly without complaint. And this is what she did. She resigned to the fact that she will not get his company. She accepted the education given to him, which was devoid of all religious scriptures or moral lessons. She did not raise any open resentment for his learning music lessons. And her stoic approach could be seen how she had busied herself, spinning the wheel, feeding the sparrows, praying and telling the beads. She did not want to prove to be an hindrance or any kind of barrier for his higher education. We move on to the next question, that is the odd way in which the author's grandmother behaved just before she died. What was odd? The first odd thing was that she did not pray that day. But she was overjoyed on his return. Perhaps all these years she had hosted the fear or the feeling that she would not be able to see him. So she exhibited and displayed her emotions in a different way. She collected the ladies of her neighborhood, beat the drum, sung the songs of homecoming. She did overstrain herself and even avoided praying that day. She was so overwhelmed. But finally, after resuming her prayers, she died peacefully. Question 5. The way in which the sparrows expressed his sorrow when the author's grandmother died. So these sparrows gave a very silent and a loving tribute to the grandmother. They came in numbers, came in thousands and sat quietly around her dead body. There were no chirrupings. They did not eat the breadcrumbs. that shows this sensitivity to the situation. Flew away quietly when body was taken away. So this is a very rare example of love and affection shown by the birds. Moving on to the next, talking about the text. We'll quickly discuss this. The author's grandmother was a religious person. What are the different ways in which we come to know this? Well, she was a religious person. She was a very pious and a compassionate lady. If we talk about the village, she constantly prayed. She used to tell the beads of the rosary. She used to visit the temple every day, read scriptures there, fed the dogs. In this city, we could feel that she was little perturbed, little ruffled, because the son was not learning any religious lessons. But she kept on praying, and even at the end, she does not want to talk or waste time in talking to the family members, but wanted to make up for the prayers that she had avoided, and she died with a rosary in her hand. The second says, describe the changing relationship between the author and his grandmother. Did their feelings for each other change? Let's give the details of all the three phases. And the writer has described by mentioning the mutual love and friendship. Then the physical distance grew, but not the feelings or love for each other. He took it as a fond memory, the moist imprint, the stamp of her kiss. He took it as a fond memory when he went abroad. And when he came back, she rejoiced his homecoming and died peacefully. So the feelings did not change at all, though they were not expressive throughout, but they did not change. Question number 3. Would you agree that the author's grandmother was a person strong in character? If yes, give instances that show this. So you have to attempt it yourself and you have to justify your response. If you feel that she was a lady of strong character, you have to give examples. Fourth says, have you known someone like the author's grandmother? Do you feel the same sense of loss with regard to someone whom you have loved and lost? This also goes for self-attempt. And please answer these questions only in 75 words. Students attempting the fourth question, remembering a person. Now if you write a short tribute to them, it will be your love for that person. So do attempt this. We move on to the next, thinking about language. Which language do you think the author and his grandmother used while talking to each other? It is a very simple language, gentle, in a soft tone, loving tone. Now, which language do you use to talk to elderly relatives in your family? Definitely respectful. We speak gently, in a very mellowed down tone. We never raise a voice. Yes, the tone changes when we want something. We plead or we cajole the grandparents to give us that thing. Third, how would you say a dilapidated drum in your language? Well, in Punjabi it would be fata hua dhol. That makes noise but is hollow from inside. It's an idiomatic expression. In Hindi we can say jo garajte nahi wo baraste nahi. Now it is for you to find out the English equivalent. Question number 4 goes for homework. You have to think of a song or a poem in your language that talks of homecoming. Okay, we move on to working with words. Notice the following uses of the word tell in the text. 4 sentences are given and the usage of the word tell is different in all these 4 sentences. The choices are given in the next page, so you can match. Now question number 2. Notice the different senses of the word take. To take something is to begin to do something as a habit. To take ill, to become ill suddenly. Locate these phrases in the text and notice the way they are used. We move on to the third part. The word hobble means to walk with difficulty because the legs and feet are in bad condition. Tick the words in the box below that also refer to a manner of walking. So this we do together. The first word is haggle. Haggle literally means to bargain. But if you use it in the context of walking, then it means dilly-dallying in walking or showing reluctance to move. Shuffle, little similar to haggle again. Drag and walk without lifting from the ground. When you drag the feet and make that noise, for which you are usually checked by your teachers, that means shuffle. Stride, taking long steps, moving decisively in a particular direction, that's stride. Then ride. Ride means to take a journey or to move on a vehicle. Waddle. Waddle, if you just recall the way the duck moves, swaying movement with short steps. Then we move on to wriggle. Wriggle, recall the movement of the worms or the snakes. It is to twist and turn with a quick movement. Next is paddle. Paddle is, you've seen the oar moving in the river. It goes with a sweeping movement. The blades, they push the water back. Then we have the word swagger. I cut it short, swag. I hope you all get the meaning now. Swag. Well, swagger means walk with confidence and with arrogance. Then we have the word trudge, to walk with very heavy steps, very tired and exhausted. The last is slog. Now this movement is in terms of action. That means to work hard. So this brings us to the end of the portrait of a lady. Thank you.